So guys, this next episode is with Greg. What a powerful man. Amazing, big, huge heart he has. This is his story. He's a commando brother. He was injured in Afghanistan. And this is his story in part one. You hear about his lead up, his childhood, the day of the incident, how he began to recover. And it ends abruptly when he gets to the point he signs up for the Invictus Games. So part two will be his whole rowing journey, and I obviously didn't mention that he's also a Paralympic gold medalist. So part two will cover all of that. I want to apologise for the horrific audio at times. I had some issues, but I'll do better and we'll do better. Thank you. Right, so we're live then. Where are we? Salford Quays.
Yeah, this is Salford Quays.
Right by, what's the name of the rowing club?
So Agecroft Rowing Club, my rowing club, where I learned to row.
And then the Imperial War Museum behind us, and then Old Trafford's that way, isn't it?
Yeah. So we can just see the corner of Old Trafford there. Hopefully signing Benjamin Sesko as we speak. But yeah. No, cool location.
You support United, yeah?
I'm a Burnley fan. I grew up a United fan. My mum and dad are Manx, grandparents were Manx. My granddad had a great story actually about swimming in the Ship Canal when everything came back from the war.
Yeah.
You wouldn't want to go in there now, but
yeah,
I suppose they're a bit tougher back then.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So nice one for coming, mate. Yeah. So this is the first time I've met you, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know if I walked past you at the squadron potentially, but yeah, and I'm excited, mate. Really. So yeah, I just want to dive in, like I said, from your child. Where are you from?
Yeah. So I grew up in East Lancashire. So
What's
like
the
I
nearest
said,
city to that?
Probably nearest to Burnley, a small town called Colne. Rural East Lancs, all the problems East Lancs has with lack of employment opportunities, deprivation, but rough, ready, lovely area, picturesque, and that kind of sums my childhood up in a lot of ways. So a lot of mischief, a lot of fun, but a lot of outdoors, and I think that's where I got my first ideas of maybe joining the military. Loved being a Boy Scout, terrible in the classroom, brilliant on the sports pitch, or thought I was, and had the hills to play on, so motorbikes, anything with an engine, push irons, out cycling, and just causing mischief. Hopefully not malicious, but I'm sure there's a few people said it was, but just mischievous. And one of three brothers, so we were.
Oh, what were you?
I was the middle as well, so I am pretty good at peacekeeping. And a lot of people say when I say that they understand me a little bit better. So yeah.
What about any sisters now?
No. So yeah. All brothers. And my older brother was very much like me. I suppose we could both potentially be labelled with ADHD now. It wasn't as much of a thing then, but atrocious at sitting still. Both wasn't particularly academic, didn't really enjoy school, but both had this is going to sound dead arrogant, but it never felt like an IQ thing. Like I knew my brother, for example, was dead sharp, like maths and skills like that. I was like one of the most intelligent people I knew, but probably left school with average results.
Yeah, that's one way of grading your intelligence, is it? It's not fit for everyone.
100%. Whereas my youngest brother was dead academic, and aced everything, and he could apply himself. It was interesting, it's interesting to see, two people who I adored, and one who was able to do it, one who wasn't.
Yeah.
And I was probably in the middle of that, like there was times I could apply myself and times where, I just didn't seem to have that ability.
Yeah, it was good. This is one thing I think is quite sort of popular now, but everyone says, oh, the lads who've made loads of money or whatever, none of them have good grades, when you come out of school, or guys who've done well for themselves. I think that kind of gets lost, and people are like, oh, we got a label, and or you're not going to do well or whatever. It's just the school system doesn't suit everyone, does it? Basically.
Yeah. I know it is. It's listen, if you have got those traits, like I probably apply it to a lot of things I've been successful in, and trust me, as you'll hear from the podcast, there's plenty of things I'm not successful in. But when I have been successful, I think I have had an ability to almost like hyper focus, and I get a little bit worried when people start talking about it like a superpower, like you could just turn it on and off. But I suppose you do learn to control it, like anything. It felt like in childhood, like my brain felt really scattered, and I couldn't really focus on much, and didn't really know how to apply myself. I was always up with something, or before I'd finished the thing I was doing, if that makes sense. Always 3 steps ahead of myself. But actually, that was sort of the military for me was the perfect environment. And I'll be honest with you, it was a magnet to join because I was looking for a bit of discipline, looking for a bit of order, looking for, like where do I belong? Not really feeling much of an identity or who am I as a person? Big questions, but just and I suppose it was a magnet for me to join, and thankfully it did help me. It helped me apply myself in the right areas.
Oh yeah, 100%. What did you move at all from that, or are you just in the same town, same house?
So I left school just about got GCSEs to do A levels. Both my parents were teachers. My mum worked in a personal a pupil referral unit. Sorry, so worked with lads that had been expelled from school, and funny enough, we used to go in there quite a bit with my mum. and I felt more at home there than I did in my local school. Do you know what I mean? So it was always a bit weird, like having two parents that are teachers. And having behavioural issues yourself, it was a weird conundrum, and again maybe explain why I did feel a bit put out or not quite right, or people expected everyone to behave like my younger brother, and then you had these two wild childs who couldn't.
Especially back then, just understanding.
So I my mum encouraged me to, she was always saying, just get something under your belt academic wise. Even if you don't particularly go down that field, it's always good. It opens the door to, universities or better jobs or, should have listened, but never did. But went to my local college to study A levels, and I think I lasted about 4 weeks. I wouldn't say I was kicked out, but we mutually agreed that I wasn't ready for it. And it was very different to high school, and rightly so. My attendance was shocking, and I was swanning around like I owned the place. And, they basically said, it doesn't work like that here, mate. If you don't want to be here, there's the door. And I walked through it, and but what were my options in East Lancs? I was labouring on building sites and factory work in the winter, and quickly got bored. And again, sounds arrogant, but I thought, not to be demeaning of, there's a lot of people who work hard. My family, talk about my granddad with great pride. He was a tailor's press. Told me all the stories of the mills in Manchester and the struggling to get a job, and what it was like after the war, the deprivation he experienced, which was, serious deprivation. So I'm proud of, working class roots, but yeah, there was just something, like I don't want to be inside. I don't want to be just, I felt like that, like a lot of young men do, like, I want to, try and take over the world and give me an opportunity.
Sense of adventure as well, isn't it?
100%, yeah.
I think that's in a lot of people as well, isn't it? You think there's more out there.
Yeah,
basically.
Yeah.
So what age was you when you joined?
I was probably just coming up to 20. I think I went to the careers office. I was probably 19, so a little bit older than a lot of people. But yeah, no, I think that was actually good for me. I lost my dad to bowel cancer when I was 15. Yeah, and that was probably, not. It added to my, challenges at school. It was like GCSE year, and to be honest, I put my head down a bit, and my attendance was incredibly poor. But it was a challenging time.
Was he sick? Was he sick for a long time, or was it quite sudden?
Yeah. It was kind of like two bouts, I would say. Like he got quite unwell when he first found out I had it. I was probably 12, 13. Then we thought we'd beat it, and then it was one of those stories with you often hear in cancer where he reappeared and it came on, incredibly aggressively. But there was some. This is going to sound really weird, but there was some incredibly powerful moments in his journey. And he was proud Mike, fanatical sports fan, and fanatical about his boys. Me and my brothers. He was such a good dad, and we had a lot of fun. He grew up on Langley, estate in North Manchester in Middleton, one of the biggest council estates in Europe, as he used to always tell us, and he'd done really well. He'd become a teacher, for God's sake. He had, no right to be where he got. And I was always incredibly proud of him for that. He had a great story where he managed to get into the grammar school. So a bit more like my little brother, who naturally had that ability, especially with maths, and I see it in my older brother as well. I wish I had that. But, yeah. And, there's the stories about you got in this grammar school and, end up literally having to fight on the bus, with the local comprehensive lads, to like, oh, you snob. But I love that. I love that he was, and he never lost that. And he never lost that ability to try and see somebody do well. He loved the rough diamonds, I can be in my local Asda walking around and there'll be lads stopping and saying, oh, Tony Stevenson's lad, oh my God, where would I be without him? And I'm 40 years old now, and, he's teaching, so how long ago was he teaching? Yeah. But still people stop me now and say, so, he had a real legacy, and it was a really good character. I had a lot of fun.
That's amazing, mate.
people who can remember a good teacher, like it changes people's lives.
Yeah,
massively.
without a doubt. And you know, he's such an important role model to me. So to lose that was difficult. But again, I'm so fortunate in my military career because I think, if I'm honest, you know, probably not a healthy reason to join the military, but I think I was seeking that male role model, positive male role model. So I had, you know, males around me. You know, the behaviours, the drinking, recreational drug use, you know, just getting in mischief. And I knew I didn't want that, and I felt like I was like letting my old man down a bit. So yeah, you know, when I joined, you know, I was dead fortunate. You know, I had some, you know, really good NCOs. You know, that you know showed me a different way. You know, like helped raise my self esteem. You know, like I probably joined a bit battered and bruised, to be honest. You know, quite unfair. And yeah, you know, like just day by day, got fitter, got stronger, got a bit of belief in myself. You know, started doing okay, middle of the pack. Yeah, well, it's all right, this, you know, like, you know, so I remember, you know, my mum saying, you're going to last about a week, you know, this is just another fad. But that was a huge motivator to me. So I was all right, this is actually your chance to at least do a year. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, and I think the NCOs, they see that they see the potential in it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they see something in you, they want you to succeed as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not all like, they don't want you to fail.
Exactly. I do. You see those skills that you want to reflect, you know, and I think, you know, unknowingly, you start to see the values that you respect. You know, the person that turns up, you know, at the front on the runs, you know, still has a bit of fun though. He has a smile when they're going to get tough. You know, it's freezing cold and they're still able to crack a smile, and you go, oh, that's, you know, and that's probably when I first ever saw a green lid. You know, like, you know, a guy called Daz Jones, you know, squadron legend, and down at 5'9", and you know, I saw him cutting about, and he just had a different edge to him, you know. And then I was dead lucky, you know, in my phase 2, at Gav Man, who a lot of you who listen to this will know, and he's been on the podcast, and again, same values, you know, similar values, not the same person, but just crack on attitude, you know, pushed me hard, you know. Which I appreciated, because I thought, like you say, I was like, wow, he thinks I'm capable of that. I'll run through a door for you because this is awesome.
Yeah. Is that what sort of steered you then towards people? Yeah. When did you do the course then?
2007. I was
What did you go straight from
Gibraltar? So straight from my phase 2 training. There was a backlog. Yeah, I was meant to be at Palma Plantop. I think I just signed up to whatever. I wasn't quite sure what I was signing up to when I joined, in all honesty. But for some reason, there's a bit of a backlog for the plant op course, and they sent me down to Chibnall to do the beat up. And just before I was going to go to Livingston, they tried to pull me off the course to say, "Oh, you need to do plant up." So being, you know, having a bit more self-esteem about me and a bit more chip on my shoulder at this point, but you know, I think in a positive way. I you know, marched into the adjutant's office and held up the doors. Sir, I think I want to swap trades or whatever it is that gets me to Livingston. And fair play to him, you know, he was like, you know, sat me down and he's like, "Are you doing this just to go to Livingston?" And I'm like, yes and no. Like, I want to be a field, you know, I want to join a field troop as well. And obviously, when I joined up, I didn't understand that, you know, I'd be in a support troop. You know, I want a trade where I could be a fieldie, and you don't know that when you sign up. And he went, "It's a fair point. And you've delivered it in a polite way. You've delivered it in a sensible way. You've not come in here about it. All right, you know, well done, Sapper Stevenson." And okay, yeah, we'll change it. You know, so we decided to go fabricated because he said that was, for some reason, there was a bit of a hold on that. So it's probably a good one to sign up to because you're not going to get sent tomorrow. You know, you've probably got time to do the course. And I think that was a great learning curve for me. You know, silly little things in your life that happen. Where actually, you know, I spoke to somebody who senior rank, you know, been I can't remember his name, but he was, you know, he'd been there and done it. You know.
Spoke up for yourself as well.
Yeah,
what you wanted.
Yeah. Exactly the things I probably wouldn't have done prior to service. You know, like I would have just put my head in the sand, or, you know, I don't know, try to look at a silly way of doing it. But actually, you know, it showed a bit of maturity, but also a bit of confidence. You know, it's had something about me, and fortunately, you know, they said, "Right, we'll change your course." So yeah, when, you know, I was able to do it, so that was kind of cool as well, because I got to go to my phase 3 with, you know, which I thought was going to be cool, like green lid on, but obviously I got spammed for every job and any trouble. They were like, "Oi."
Who were you beat up instructors?
So I had Nick Ingram.
Did you?
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Yeah. Eddie Jones, who free para and became PT.
Yeah.
I remember.
I know Eddie Jones.
Yeah, Jay Bates.
Yeah.
It's
had a good set of people piecing there.
Yeah. No, we had particularly, fun time on the beach.
Sure
But,
you did, yeah.
but, like anything, you don't know it at the time, do you? But you go down there so confident, don't you? When I don't know, first week at Livingston for me, I thought, yeah, they've trained us incredibly well here because we felt fitter than, like 2'9" lads or the randoms that turn up. It's always like a pilot, isn't it? There's always a chef or you're just doing this for the crack.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it felt good. And
You are prepared, aren't you? They do prepare you for it, don't they?
100%.
You are, yeah. You do feel ready.
Yeah.
The only thing really you have to worry about is the injuries, I think. Isn't it?
Yeah. What I should say, in all honesty, and this is coming back to me to speak, is I actually did 2 beat ups. I thought I'd lost my chance to go to Livingston. So, so I'd got, like I said, when I joined the military, wasn't fit at all, or was bottom half, whatever. By the time I got to my phase 2, doing pretty well. And I probably didn't expect to go down to, until I'd done chatting and thought I had time. And I got down there and I was really good at the running and, carrying weight and stuff. But like pull-ups for me, I was 6'5" before I got injured. Lanky, and yeah, I struggled. It seems daft, but it was like the pull-ups. I could get up a 30-foot rope, but, really struggled on the pull-ups. Regain, I struggled on a little bit. We cracked that towards the end. But I think that was my first taste of how much do you want this, because I remember getting pulled into the office when the course that probably would have been the first course of 2007, because I was on the second course, and said, "You're not going, mate. We've got a full course. We would have been squeezing you in there. We think you're not ready." I was like, "Oh, no, that's hard. And I'm sure a lot of people listening to this have done some pretty arduous stuff in the military. It was the right kick, but it was the right thing. I look back now and I think, yeah, man, they sent me down really ready. You know what I mean? Like 2 beat ups saying I was fit, but I enjoyed the course so much more. And I remember playing enemy for that course that I should have been on in a lot of ways. And the frustration of that and just are you kidding me? Like it feels like time's going so slowly, and then to nearly get pulled off. Because I would have done 2 beat ups too, and not pass the course. And I don't want to say it would have fizzled out, but it would have been hard
for a lot of people, doesn't it? It's like certain things you can't go back to it,
Yeah.
especially when you add in the thoughts of them.
And that was
late
only
cold nights.
18 months after. I would have definitely struggled with anybody giving me any adversity or rejection, or it would have been 2 things. It would have been the college situation. Like that was probably just a bit of an ego check. Like if I'd have said, "Oh, I'm really sorry, I'll attend," and I'll toe the line, I'm pretty sure I would have stayed. But I saw that as an ego check or a challenging me, and I dealt with it in a really immature, way that I'm not proud of. But that's where I was. You know what I mean? Whereas actually, they did the same at Chiv, but yeah, I kind of got it as well. These were people I trusted in front of me. Like I'd seen the way they behaved, I've seen who they were as people, and I wanted to be like that.
And they want you to pass, don't they? That's ultimately
100%.
You can't potentially see it yourself sometimes, but
Yeah.
they know what they're doing, don't they?
Yeah, rightly so, and yeah, and the cool thing, and it's always been something I've taken forward is actually now, I deliberately train those weaknesses deliberately, like actually, and that's what I did after that. I remember the lads going down on course, and then I was like, right, every day I'm going to go down in the morning, go down in the evening, and bang out pull-ups. You know what I mean? That's pretty much the only thing I need to worry about. The running's good, and we're going to do plenty of that. That's a given, right? On the beetle, we have to run around camp, for God's sake. So I knew that wasn't an issue. So I thought, you sort the pull-ups out. And
How did it go then? How long did it take you to do? How many did you have to do? 12, was it?
No, I think it's literally the basic thing was like 5, but it was like, the dead hang hold at the bottom and then having super long arms. I just struggled, if they'd let me got halfway with 5 iffy pull-ups, so it wouldn't have been an issue, but it was like, that dead hang, like getting right down and so yeah. And it's just difficult. Like, I don't know, with the size and also I think I had some sort of like mental block with it. Honestly, a bit like the regain. I was like, I'm struggling to work this out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But then once it clicked, it was meant.
You had it
Loved
sorted.
it. Yeah. And I had a good time. After that, actually that period of waiting for the next course to come, and I was probably a bit more mature on that. That next course, I managed to like the good room where everyone walks through, and there's a lad I still speak to now, Jack Kieran. One of the nicest stories I hear about me around that time was, he when he came in, he was dead nervous, and he's arrived on like a Tuesday night, and I don't know what to do, where I need to be, and my door was always open, and I was like, mate, come here, like, right, what you need is you need name on the t-shirt, you need to have the trainers ready, full water bottle, we're going for a run tomorrow, just gave him the lay of the land, and I'm like, mate, you're gonna get smashed this first day, you're gonna get a tanking, but that's cool, everyone does.
That's diamond behaviour, diamond bloke behaviour. That is, because rocking off.
But
Tuesday night in the dark.
Yeah.
No one's helping you.
No,
really.
no. That's it. And that was the nice thing, that I'd not shut my door, and that's what he remembers now. Every time I'm with him, he's like, man, and it's nice. It's like, but I suppose I'm dead fortunate that I'm reflecting the values how I got to it. I feel, in those good NCOs that I had,
Yeah, you have to. It's almost that you've got to pass it down, haven't you?
Yeah.
If you treat well, it's like they say, bullies go on to bully, don't they? But you've been treated well. It's almost an obligation, like. You've got to be that for the next person, haven't you?
I think if I'd have gone that, if I'd have gone just about ready or maybe not quite ready, I wouldn't have been like that, because I'd been worried about myself or hanging out, or whereas actually being a bit more ready, a bit more confident in my own ability, I could have a bit more periphery.
You probably
about other people.
Made other lads as well as him, other people, when they know someone knows a bit more.
Yeah.
It calms the whole group as well.
Yeah, that's it.
So yeah, that's interesting. Who was the 5-9 instructor?
Haggis Anderson.
Was it Haggis? Yeah.
Loved it. I have some mates now, like absolutely loved him. Like, and I got his, like, again, probably going down a little bit. No, I honestly wasn't cocky, but I just think I've been around it a bit longer than like a few lads, and kind of knew what to expect, played enemy and stuff. So and I just found so much trouble at Limsden, but I loved Limsden. Like, I was so keen to get that green lit. I was just so motivated to get it, and you just find, I felt like you just find trouble at every curve, or just maybe that was just me, but daft things, and like I always saw Haggis just having a little laugh in the corner, or fuck's sake, Steve, I'll stop smiling, because I would just be like too happy, but it just cracked me up, and he got me, and I think I got him, and it was nice, like, I had a lot of fun, and it was a real honour, honestly. Like, at the end of the course, I had to get my green lid off him, and just get that pat on the back. And again, another key figure in my positive male role models.
I haven't seen him for a while, but I know him well. Who was your mates on course?
So yeah, like Jack Plant, Jack here. Just had like a blast, and I feel in a lot of ways I know a lot of lads from that first course and second course, like I know Dev really well, and they watched, I think they watched, and kind of went, oh, we didn't think he'd crack on, we thought he'd maybe drop off, and so it was nice when I rocked up back, and I developed a lot of friends, a lot of, a lot of good lads, so I went off to chat him after that, and I was kind of out of the squadron. That's what you don't realise. I'm out of the squadron, and all the lads on my course are cracking on, and gearing up to go to Afghan. And I'm thinking I'm missing Afghan, but after all the chopsing off to get on the course, I've messed it up again, because I'm going to miss a tour. And then oh my god, I've been the new kid, and
So how long was the welding course?
Probably about 7 months, something like that. I'm sorry, I'm rubbish with days, but yeah, it wasn't particularly, like, it wasn't massively long, but it was long enough, long enough to be away from. When I wanted to be there, I wanted to be gearing up for tour.
So 2007, 2008?
Yeah, this would have been like 2008. Operation Herrick Night. The lads were leaving like November time, October time, to get on that tour. So I was like rocking up back at squadron, kind of around where the lads were leaving. Right. So I thought there's a small chance I might get on this tour, and then like everything in the military, 1 minute is you're going to be needed. The next minute is stand down. We're not going to be sending reinforcements. The next minute you go in, and then
in limbo as they were. You'd have probably missed all the pre-training.
Yeah. And then they threw us through that. That's when I started to think I could be going there. Probably November time. Got thrown through all the training, did the range packages, and the barmer skills. And then got the nod just before Christmas.
So the squadron gone?
Yeah, squadron had gone. They've been out there a couple of months, and then
did they need someone to go out?
Yeah. Like I'm not sure if it was casualty replacement, or just the way things were going.
It's a random one. This Big Scouse.
Yeah, Scouse.
Don't say a second name. Well, did he send you out there?
Yeah. So it was, he was like, just, there was almost like a holding troop of the lads sort of kicking about, and he was running that, you know, like, so
He told me a story. So I'd heard about you years ago. Just still speak to him now a little bit. But he said he had to choose between a couple of people who to send out, and then obviously you got injured. So that was you. I didn't realise that was you. I had suspicions it might have been you.
Yeah.
Was there a couple of people that you wanted to go?
And we're all chomping at the bit because it's all young lads in the same situation. You know, you've either been on a course or you've just done the all arms, or, you know, for whatever reason, you'd not been with the squadron, you'd been on, you know, doing something, and all itching to go. So we were probably like, send me out, you know what I mean? Like, because, you know, you wanted to get out there. And I did, you know, I was itching to go.
So did you go out by yourself, or was there anyone else?
There was about, I think it was about 5 or 6 of us went out, and then we got there, you know, arrived Kandahar, you know, not that you know it then, my first time there, but, you know, always difficult, always miss, you know, flights getting cancelled, and then, you know, bit of a slog over to Bastion, and then, not really sure where I'm going or how I'm getting there, you know, just like, okay, this is a bit crazy, yeah.
You don't even know what troop you're going to? Where did you get sent?
So I ended up at Kajaki. So, I was up there. Sean Edwards, Evo, the good group of us.
Got one troop man, was it?
Was one troop. I was in Commando troop at the time, and when I went up there, it was one troop. Sorry, So I was so. Yeah. I don't remember. I think that was like around that time. The beach Afghan and an adventure tour as well. It was, you know, like people he did. Well, he always wanted. But I knew the lads, you know, I felt that beach. You know, there's a lot up there, Russ, and Jack, who I mentioned previously, you know, they were up there. You know, like Bob Martin, and, you know, I knew them all, so I felt quite at home. You know, Section Commander Bobby, Gurkha lad, you know, they're like awesome. Just TP, one of the Gurkha lads, you know, just good lads, professional lads, and, you know, had a bit of fun as well, you know. Yeah.
How long have they been there then? A couple of months?
Yeah, they've been there. They've probably been there like 2 months, maybe going on like 2.5 months or something when I got there, and it was literally maybe 2 weeks before, or a week before Christmas when I got there. Felt like everyone was getting gearing up, like parcels arriving.
How was the tour going for you?
We had a bit of a difficult start. I think with Royal Line kept early on it, so one shot, but like, you know, got to grips with the area, and seemed like everything was going really well. You know, so a few engineering tasks going on, you know, a few sniper hides getting built, but a lot of patrolling. You know, we weren't doing much engineering up there. Certainly when I arrived there, they were. But yeah,
get in contact with them.
Yeah,
was there anyone around? It's quite
a rural area. You know, in a funny way, I found it quite a beautiful area in a lot of ways. It's like sort of foothills of the mountains, you know, starting, and this huge dam behind you. And, you know, when you got up on the peaks, because there are a couple of big mountains where the fob is, it's quite protected. The mountains behind you, so you've got the elevation, and then there's a team up on the top with eyes on the entire flat. So
heavy
that's it. You feel relatively safe in there. You know, obviously never completely, and the odd mortar would come in. And being Joe laughing about that the other day. I totally forgot this, but I remember going to like Scran one of the first days. There's a couple of mortars whistling, and I was like, "What is going on here?" Do you know what I mean? Like, you hear about it, don't you? But until you're in that situation, you're like, "Wow, this is."
I've got one same place, Kajaki, with big scouts. So we sat on a table playing cards, and you could hear it coming in. And then it was like first one to leave, hat they were saying, and everyone's like, and then everyone ran at the same time.
We were both thinking, like, what do you do? Do you lose your line in the scran, or do you? You know, it's mad the thoughts you have, though, isn't it? But, like, but yeah, you know, we had a lot of fun there. You know, like you know, obviously there's a lot of patrolling, and, you know, a lot of long, steady patrols as well. So fizz was, you know, crucial. But yeah, you know, we built like a ping pong table, got a bit of a homemade gym going on. So, you know, we did what all good engineers do. We were pretty resourceful. You know, had a lot of fun on the boats. You know, on the reservoir there. You know, probably jumped off the bridges we shouldn't have jumped off, and all the things. Now I look back at a few pictures and go, "You fucking idiot."
So what? Did you get injured on that tour then?
Yeah. So right towards the end, you know, the one job I got spammed with was the stores. You know, nobody wants that job, do they? Especially with Royal kicking about, because you know, you're looking after the stores, and you know, like they want to put some shelving up or something. So all the hammers, all the saws, and you know, lads are going patrolling with stuff as well, and yeah, nothing's coming back. So my job a lot of the time was sneaking around camp trying to half inch it back. You know, so you know, I just got my stores back in order. We were ready to hand it over. You know, so literally felt like the last patrol Friday afternoon. I always said nothing good happens on a Friday afternoon with squadron. You know, and yeah, we were probably pushed out about as far as we did. You know, we were probably 3-4 kilometers out from the fob. And yeah, come under a little bit of sporadic fire. And I don't, you know, the truth is I don't remember the incident particularly well. But yeah, I pushed into the compound, and you know, the SOPs then were, you know, for somebody to go in alone, you know, a bomber sweeper, make sure it's as safe as possible. Yeah, and I knew the compound. You know, we'd been there before. I knew it. I had a really good vision for it. I always felt like with my bomber skill, I had quite a good way of mapping in my head, you know, where things were. And
you mean with the mine detector?
Yeah, the mine detector, yeah. And I felt like I was quite good at seeing differences. You know, again, just thinking about how my brain works, I think actually like you know, solving puzzles and things. I actually think like I've been pretty good at that. So I actually think it suited me as a job. It's absolutely you don't have potential. It's so yeah. They'd be bought in the roof of collapse. It was a really nice wake onto the roof. I was like, look, I now too good. And then the next thing, you know, just incredible, like weird sensation of lungs, ears ringing, you know, it's a fairground pit of stomach, you know, when you're a kid on the Big Dipper, kind of your stomach still feels like it's in the top. And yeah, I just felt face. That genuinely was. It felt like it happened. I was like, oh my, what has gone on there?
Yeah. You conscious then the whole time, or what?
I think it felt like 5 seconds or so. That's what it felt like. And then I sort of came round. I couldn't move. Like something had gone on with my pelvis. Felt like it was almost like dislocated. I couldn't sit up.
Yeah.
And it was really, I was getting frustrated, you know, because I'm trying to piece together what I was daft as it sounds. That's how disorientating it was.
Yeah.
But by now, pretty obvious. You're in the middle of the desert.
Yeah.
You know, but at the time, it was like, you know, like I say, and I think I'd got a lot of impact on the head. It was just confusing. You know, not having my rifle near me, you know, I felt vulnerable, very vulnerable straight away. We'd had a lot of chatter on the way up, you know, typical sort of over the comms chatter, like we can see them, you know, they're in the wadi, you know, so they had eyes on us, but yeah, I think, you know, it was that horrible feeling of being dead vulnerable, so rightfully got it.
Well, that's your training, though, isn't it? Your training is.
I know, it's funny.
It
was. I remember patting around, being like, oh, you know, almost like a Rick bollocking.
Yeah, imagine.
You know, but yeah, and it really, it was what it was there and then, you know, and I looked down and I was like, you know, I remember trying to like feel, because there's a lot of dust, a lot of, you know, it was like fleshy, wet. I was like, okay, like this is not ideal. And my left leg especially was pretty much like gone. It felt like right leg wasn't too sure about. Like I say, I felt down. I was like, it's not in a good state, but I don't know.
Yeah.
And then yeah, like the pain in my face and that inability to sit up. So again, I didn't feel like I could do much. So I was kind of relying on the lads, in all honesty.
You must have been on your straight away.
Brownie, Dan Brown, and you know he was you know would have been, you know, second man, and he's come down. And fucking dare move, you know, like because he's you know, worried about a secondary device, and rightly so, you know. Yeah, it's just quick, you know, like because then you're worrying about him as well, you know. You're like, wow, we are proper vulnerable, you know, like, and the chances are there could be a secondary, you know, we've done the training, and then you start thinking about the logistics, like.
You thinking about this, was you? Yeah.
And I was just like, because I felt so useless, like straight away. Honestly, I remember apologising to the lads. Like, I'm pretty sure they'll back me up on that, you know, like, and I said about a bit picky, but I can't remember, you know, we had a sort of section strike deep. It's a great day, a really good lad, Lee Collins, proper top lad. I still see the postcode as well, lads, to see quite a bit, doing recent highway, not too far away. And yeah, I remember them saying like, people like, I tells us you like, I'm so sorry. 'Cause it almost felt like I'd caused a commotions. You know what I mean? That's what it felt like. Yeah.
And then what did they get you back to
Yeah,
the heli? The
Yeah,
fob?
yeah. So the way it was working, no, and so the way, because we were quite far out, so the way it was working, and this kind of shows you how challenging the terrain and the situation was. And like something's going to fall off. Was we had the side of the edge on a quad bike, people were like bringing the safety, some 50 meters behind or something. And if anything went down, he'd line up people up and take it back to a helo landing site where we had the section armor that get that safe.
So they just strapped you on it then?
Yeah, and obviously that was horrific. Like, bouncing around, and I had this at the time. The pain was coming from the pelvis. It almost felt like I was doing like a when you get that feeling that you're doing too many crunches, and it felt like there's something stretched in my abdomen. There's something, it's just horrible, like sit up feeling. But and then fortunately, I got the morphine, like ketamine or whatever it was. Once I got to the doc, she shoved something in my arm, and everything just went cold. I was like, yeah, man.
Do you remember anything then do you remember it all then? Getting on the heli and all that?
I remember getting on the helicopter. I remember the lads being like, I remember, I think it was Eddie, Sean Edwards being, I was smoking at the time. I was quite casual smoke, but I was one of them that would be annoying on an exercise. I'd probably pinch one off you, but for some reason I had some on me. And I remember being like, we need them, will you? But you know what I mean? The humour, just quality. And, so we had a few laughs after this time. And, it's like, I remember saying, like, the lads remind me of this, before I got on, I said, I told you I'd get on before you. I'm trying to crack funny. It's probably not even funny, but I'm trying to still be part of the team. That's the sad side of it. I'm aware that these are life changes because, shit's got serious very, very quickly. And then, I got to go on the helicopter and I have this incredible experience. Most beautiful thing I've ever seen. I did get the idea poo-pooed on by my consultant, my current consultant. But I get on the helicopter and it takes off. You've got the jet fuel in the air. You've got the back door open. This incredible view of the mountains. By this time, it's 5, 6 o'clock in Afghanistan. The sun's setting. Fucking beautiful, like properly beautiful. Solitary tear coming down my face. Like genuinely, I'm like. I realised, oh, fucking hell, I am literally dying, like, but quite happy, quite warm, quite content. And I was always like, you hear about these people almost dying and then come back and, how beautiful it is. And I was always a bit like, I think I've experienced that. But my consultant told me what the side effects of ketamine are. It's like a massive disassociate. Do you know what I mean? So I was probably just off my tits. But whatever it was, honestly, like it was a mega moment, and just in terms of like solace and just stoicism, just being in awe of this team around me. I was resuscitating on the fly. That's how bad I was. I do make light of it, but I was given a little blue book, and it's like almost like a report from school on like day one or hour one, and this is what we did, because they know you're not going to remember. And the way I remember it, I've spoken to a few lads and be like, did that not happen? Or did that happen? Or I thought it was so and so came and got the stretcher, and they're like, nah. And I think we've almost got a bit shitty with each other in the past, but it's like I genuinely don't think I remember all of it.
Of course, yeah.
But all I can say is that the lads were unreal. Those values and those things that attract you to, being part of an elite team that were the things that saved my life. Fit lads who they would have run, until they died. I knew that, and to be in their hands, and especially the chat bastards as I felt, you know what I mean. I'm sure they'll remind me, but you know what I mean. It was that, and then the docs, straight into it was an American helicopter that put, and there was a nice story around that because the Brits kind of said, you're in a firefight, and our FSG group were absolutely hammering the position to try and settle things down so the helo would land. Unfortunately, it was a Black Hawk in the area, so I think Americans are a little bit more cowboy, right? Sometimes it's a good thing, right? If you're bleeding to death in Afghanistan, that's a good thing. And they came swooping in, so it's quite Hollywood. So they're like, we'll do it. so our FSG just absolutely hammered every position. They came swooping in. I'm thrown in the bar. It was pretty alley, but it's weird.
That's amazing. So that when did you get that blue book?
I was probably sent home with it, but I read it. maybe about a month after, you know, like, and then, you know, I never knew I'd been resuscitated, for example. You know, I was like, oh, I survived, or, you know, I was put in a coma, or, and then you read the hour by hour. Yeah, like, wow.
And then you obviously went to Bastion.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Did they try and get you straight back to Birmingham?
Yeah, so the way it worked was, you know, obviously there was like the initial life-saving operations, so like not the pretty, you know, tidying up of stitches and all that, but like the, you know, how do we stop the bleeding? So when you're getting home, how do we, you know, and you know, I saw a few lads there, you know, a few lads, you know, seen John Taylor, and you know, a few lads, Scott Lee, you know, the Sergeant Major at the time came down. You know, just gutted, you know, and it genuinely, you could see it, you know. Yeah. And I knew then the extent of my injuries and stuff. I think at the point I was a double below knee, so you know, I had, you know, two knees, if that makes sense. And then by the time I got home, woke up after my first operation, I'd lost the knee as well, you know. So I tidied it up and done the best I could do, you know, in a difficult environment. And, you know, when you get home, I suppose that's I was flown straight into Celio. So I literally landed at Birmingham International. They shut the airport down for you. I'm sure the lads trying to get home were like, fuck's sake, you know, could have just taken a surprise, but this knobhead it's given us like a 3-hour delay or whatever. But again, you know, just me being Jack. Yeah. So, yeah, you know, it's straight into Birmingham International, which is a weird experience. Like, ambulance waiting on the runway, you know, I'm distracted, this thing, you know, just been woke up from the coma, like, what is going on here?
Yeah. Could you comprehend what was going on?
Not really, if I'm honest. Not really, no. And I think I was so high and so tired and so drained. You know, that's what it felt like. It's like a weird mix of like I'd run out of adrenaline or whatever it was. It was keeping me alive. I felt like, you know, so flat, so like just get me where I need to get.
Yeah. Do you know you were alive then, or do you?
I think so. Yeah, I started to feel.
Because I imagine if you're basically like, you're tripping on drugs, aren't you? So it's like,
yeah.
I can imagine you losing reality as well. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think I woke up a few, you know, I remember in the book he says, you know, you woke up a few times on the flight and we just did a little bit more to knock you back out. You know, like I said, obviously, you know, like I say, you don't know where you are, so you're probably trying to pull things out, or, you know, like, you know, what's going on, you know. So confused. And like I say, it was that emotion. But, you know, like, you'd hear little things like, you know, your family waiting, you know, your mum's waiting for you. And that was reassuring. As soft as that makes me sound, but you know, like, because you do, don't you? You know, and I was more worried about how they felt. I genuinely was. I was like, oh man, that sometimes it's easier to be the person, isn't it? But I imagine now, put myself in her shoes. You know, if any of my children were, you know, being ventilated on the way home and I fly from Afghanistan, I'd probably, where would you be? You know?
Yeah, I mean it shows how big your heart is there to be concerned about people as well. That's
and it's the way we train, isn't it? You know, it's we not I, you know, and I mean that. And I think that's what I feel. You know, it's about the military too. I wanted that, and I think that's why I saw 5'9". You know, trying to engineer maybe just because I was like, I want to train. You know, I didn't really know much about the military, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
It was the trade that appealed. Cause I thought, what do we do after? You know, which was pretty smart for me at that time. But yeah, and then you know, you see those people who reflect those values that you want, and it was that ability to, you know, not be jacked, you know, to, you know, not take someone's kit, you know what it's like when you're without, you know, certain camps and you go,
yeah, it's just, I mean, but then in that situation, in your situation at that time, it's like that is the highest end of it. You know what I mean? So. Your brother's there as well?
Yeah. Brothers have come down, and typical like brothers. They've been out on the lash the night before with my cousin. So my cousin's there as well. Who, you know, the cousins. I've got two of my cousins. They've come down, and you know, it's just, you know, and obviously their heads are like, what do you do? We're waiting around. So they've gone around Birmingham, so they're looking worse for wear. I remember looking and thinking, even at that stage, like, not beds. My mum tried to gloss over, like, oh no, I could smell the drink. I was like, oh lads, but also quite jealous. And then just you know, it felt like you know, maybe 2 or 3 big operations. So I was in and out. You know, probably that first 48 hours was rough again, and then settled down a bit, got out of like intensive care up on the ward. That was quite cool because you know, you're around a few other lads that've been injured, so you start to feel a bit more I don't know, like, it starts to normalise your disability, because that's the other thing, right? Nobody knows how to be disabled until you're disabled. Or how do you feel, or what the fuck do I know about disability? You know, I was, what, 23, just turned 24, I think. And I'm yeah, and you know, got this disability, like, it's significant. I'm not going to fix, you know, the situation. So yeah, I suppose there was a lot of thoughts. And then I think to be around people going through the same thing was actually quite comforting.
Is there anyone who's down the door open at one point?
Yeah,
Is there anyone
yeah, there
who
was,
helped?
I'm not going to still say now, but the admission with the neck lad, and you know, he came down. He was great with my family as well. He came down, like, you know, when I was in intensive care, and it was just like, you know, a few weeks ago I was in, and you know, you'll be alright. Just listen to the docs, you know, look after yourself, and you know, shout out if you need anything. Sort of, you know, just genuinely awesome lad. You know, and I know my mum especially took a lot of, you know, she asked about him all the time, because it's like he remembers him just being a good, you know, like, to bother his ass when he could have just been let in bed feeling sorry for himself, to come down. Like,
But to me, he's that guy who
100%,
the door open.
100%.
You know what I mean?
And you know, like, you know, the values that I aspire to, you know, don't say I get it right all the time, but you know, so I was like, you know, like, you know, just how cool that was. Yeah, you know, you see someone now, you see him do well in life. I don't know, doing like, still sitting time, up dude, and we were like similar age, similar mischief level, so rugby balls were getting thrown about. You know, he had a big cage on his leg, you know, and occasionally he just did like, no! You know, so big God, you know, but like, what if you just did a bit of harm in some ways, but yeah, in a lot of ways, it was really, really healthy environment just to get better.
Yeah, the morale, I can imagine,
Yeah.
mentally. So then, from there, you go into rehab, don't you? Is it Headley Court?
Yeah. So down to Headley Court, and again, that's probably, you know, a really positive evolution, because you know, you go from like being around a hospital environment where the most exciting thing probably that happens is you get given a wheelchair, you know, when you could be trusted. You know, it's funny, you know, they're like, they've just done, like, and this is the thing you don't realise, they've just done hours and thousands of pounds and hours, and you know, and then they've got us idiots throwing rugby balls about, you know, potentially going to need more operations, so they're like, right, until you can be trusted, so at least you get like your wheelchair confiscated and stuff. So, but it was all, honestly, like, I think that helped, you know, just have some, you know, a bit of fun with it.
Oh yeah,
Come to terms with it, you know, it's what I needed. I couldn't do the I don't know, how's this going to affect you for the rest of your life, or are you going to go back in the military? Are you going to, at this point, I was just like, I need to just get healthy.
Yeah, I can't imagine. So yeah, it's good. Especially with other lads going through the same thing as well.
Yeah. That's it. And you start to see like positives, you know, like positives, like anything. We're all competitive, right? So you'll see your offer, or a lad you've seen who's a couple of weeks ahead of you, starting to like talk about getting a prosthetic leg, or you know, and especially when you get down to rehab, you know, you'll see people walking about with similar injuries. So you're like, all right, okay, you're doing all right. So I suppose you start to be a little bit more positive, rather than, you know, it goes from like trying to stay alive to how am I going to live the rest of my life. That point was, for me, I try, like, you know, put the goal on it, try to the course. All I need to do is turn up, try my best, make sure I don't do it. Yeah. You know, don't give up. Take up in the morning and get the audience and all that fault. But again, that's just part of the people to it. I'm a bit of a lad. Yeah, we've no, that's a good question. Probably about, I'd say about 12 weeks. So it's pretty quick, you know. You know, I remember around there, being like, I can't believe they've sent me. You know, I've still had like, you know, plasters on some of my wounds and stuff, and stitches, and you know, but yeah, you know, that's military rehabilitation. You know, it's aggressive.
Right, back from the short break. So you're still at Headley Court at this point on. How long? So you're there 12 weeks. You're at Headley Court, and then I know from what you're saying. I know it's very like structured.
Yeah.
So what are they telling you then at this point? Are they saying like how many weeks before we want you on a? Is there a full plan?
Yeah, full plan. So, you know, you literally get like a weekly sort of schedule where you'll be like, you know, 9 o'clock Monday morning physiotherapy for an hour, you know, and they're hammering you there, and you know, even before you get your legs, like lots of banded glute work, and they're preparing you, you know, and I think I bought into that. I got that. I was like, right, I need to get strong. To just do like sports, like city volleyball and stuff. So you get moving around a little bit. But yeah, the place is just full of physios and PTs, so there's no sitting around. Apart from coming together in the evenings and stuff. But busy days and you're tired, man. You've been for a big recovery. Your body's still coming to terms with all the trauma you've experienced, and it's a busy environment. That's the other mad thing. The ward, there might have been like, I don't know, maybe 8 of us in a bay, and then you get to head the court, and it's a bit overwhelming. You're like, wow, it's so many lads here with significant injuries, and you're told, right, you'll be here for 8 weeks, and then you're going to go home for 4 weeks, and you're back for 8 weeks, and you're going to go home for 4 weeks, and you're controlling with so many people. And listen, you need to be in your own environment and probably start planning for the future a little bit. It's a polite way, I think, and I'm not sure, but it felt like a polite way of saying start making plans. Because at some point you need to be back in the community.
Yeah. Are you doing any like counsellors as well, ladies?
Yeah, I did a little bit. I didn't really take it too seriously. I was a little bit. Yeah, I didn't know how to open up. Honestly, I didn't know how to do it in childhood. Being up with some grief counselling with my father, and I couldn't really open up. And again, I felt the same. And, I'll be honest, I didn't know how I felt.
I was going to say that actually. Like, how do you really?
It's a really hard question.
Yeah, because you're injured, and I suppose you've got this step-by-step process to get out. Like your goal then is like, right, get on my legs, but then
yeah. Next. And I had targets, so it's going to sound strange, but I was quite positive because I had targets. I was like, right, I'm going to get some legs, I'm going to get these.
Yeah, you got to pass up.
Yeah,
I suppose.
So my first challenge is like, when I didn't have things in front of me, if I'm honest, like when I went home for the first 4 weeks, and I'm at home, and what do? Because I was back at my mum's, like I didn't have my own home, so I was back in my mum's, actually, thinking that, I'm in the village, I've got a career, the next thing downstairs bed, NHS bed, mum's house, because I couldn't get upstairs. The door frame wasn't big enough for the wheelchair to go through, so I'm stuck in one room, and I can just about get out the patio, but there's a step down, and it's a real pain in the ass, so it's like, actually, feel like I'm sat in the room until somebody comes home from work, or I don't want to ask for help, I don't want to ring a mate and say, actually, I'm a bit stuck here now. Fortunately, like some of the squadron lads came up, and I didn't really know how to say, like when I'm here, I'm not really enjoying life.
Oh mate, yeah. But there's like just the little stresses of the wheelchair won't fit through the door. That's one. Then you're like, you said step 2.
Yeah.
Then it's like, you don't want to ask people if you're like,
yeah.
So much there.
Yeah.
That first time home must have been something.
Yeah, it was hard. It was hard, and people are walking on eggshells around you. I wasn't particularly angry, or wasn't getting at people. I don't think. I'm sure I was a bit sharp on occasions, but my problem was I probably went the other way. I became very socially isolated and kept myself to myself. I was probably a bit embarrassed about the position I was in all this. Felt like I lost fears, probably things that hide behind, and we all have those things, don't we? Like shields that we put up. I just felt super exposed again. Probably the easy way to deal with that was to hide away.
Yeah. You have your, at least, don't you? Like, these young lads who people look up to, and then you like go home with your green lid and he's a commando.
Yeah.
And then that's what your mind taking away.
I'd always enjoyed a drink, and probably developed a bit of an unhealthy relationship, in my late teens, I drank to get have a good time. Don't get me wrong, I've had so many good times, drinking and festivals. It's a really good lesson. I would say like the same in my military, career. Some great laughs, really good laughs. Probably never just socially. Kind of resorted back to that, at home and stuff. On the occasions I did go out, it tended to be Friday night with, my mates had finished work, our brothers had finished work, and they go, oh, come on, we'll set you out for one. All right. And then the next thing is 3 o'clock in the morning and struggling to get in a taxi because they walk in a wheelchair in. And you're like, it's awkward. I think the more I did that, the more that's when start to lose that self-esteem.
Yeah. Then I suppose you go. Did that? Is that going on then every time I'm technically?
Yeah, that's it. Sorry, yeah, it felt like a cycle. Don't get me wrong. It was over 4 weeks, and there were some really positive moments, and great to spend time with the family and reconnect, and make a plan moving forward. But then the reality being, back down at Headley Court, which was great. I'm always back on it. I'm like, right, we'll spend a lot of weekends down there because again, I'd sort of recognise like actually travelling all the way up north, to sit around, okay, and come back down. I may as well just stay down there. So yeah, I became a bit of a block now for Headley Court and all this, but I believe this. And then that's another positive things where I've done the legs. So I started cutting them out, which is fun, hard, you realise that I thought you could have run a marathon or something, I was like, I'll be all right. It's a typical squadron attitude, like, I'll find a way. But yeah, you couldn't outgrizz it because it'd be painful, like, describe it as like wearing a pair of boots that are too small or something, you can do it, but, you want to get them off and you want to, yes. But yeah, built up stamina, built up strength. Because that's the other thing I didn't realise, I lost so much strength, like, portion and sitting up straight and lying in bed very quickly, and I suppose all the medication I was on and stuff like that just seemed to make me weak, and I get fatigued very easily. Feel like I needed to sleep. Very poor with sleep. I was in that awkward position of sleep. Complete PTSD like symptoms. They're coming through my dreaming, feeling fucked about. So then and I did keep that, quite quiet, but I think that's pretty obvious. And, the nurses, for example, would do walk rounds and stuff, and it's probably when I started to accept that actually I was thinking it a little bit, and I need to do something about this. Yeah.
And then did you reach out then to anyone?
Yeah, and I think I found my solace in talking to other people. And it tends to be a little bit of a club, like you going. I can't believe saying this, I wanted all that, like, sleep now after, being at sport, but, go and make yourself through at like 2 o'clock, because I was up. But then there'd be somebody else, so actually some of those conversations at 2 o'clock in the morning, somebody else who was struggling to, like, where I found my help, if that makes sense. Like, okay, this actually might be a normal reaction to an incredibly traumatic experience. And then I actually quite enjoyed geeking out, trying to learn a bit more about it, because it's probably my first exposure to core mental health. I felt, the grief of my father, and I maybe always a little bit depressed in childhood. Like, I always found like I needed to be quite extreme to feel happy, or that dopamine, like, always seems to be quite extreme. So I'd recognise that, but it was nothing too heavy. Which actually now I'm in this situation, and I had time on my hands. So I might have a read. There's plenty of information around about PTSD, about prosthetics, there'd always be a magazine with an article in or something. Like, geek out a bit on this.
So then did you do a little organised with the lads then?
Yeah.
Is that organic for the guys?
Yeah. There'd be we got up to all sorts down there as well. Like Chelsea are playing in the weekend and they're giving 6 tickets. So we'd go off and do stuff like that, and that was good. Go cut about London on your prosthetics for the day, and like trying to get on the underground, going on an escalator for the first time, and it was like the idiots. But it was a good crack, and you get confidence up a bit, and you start building resilience, and becoming more independent.
Yeah.
And and I suppose that's the thing we had before. That when you're ready to move on, because it's not being get mischief without you getting bored, or you're conquering the things they're asking you to do. And for me, started saying, you're going back to work, which I was a bit surprised by. There was like, you have like an occupational therapist or someone who considers like, how your home is, like things like that. Like, we need to get your doorways widened, and which obviously my mum was thrilled about. I'm going to start knocking the walls down and stuff. But also what you're going to do for your career. And, I was pretty shocked when they were like, you're going to go back to work, and we'll see how it goes. I really don't want to be defeated. So I think I'm a positive person, but I know what it requires to be a true, in a field troop, in my squadron. without trying to sound pedantic or, you know, like I'll do that or nothing. Don't really want to. I can't ever picture me doing that. You know, I've had these difficulties in childhood. You know, genuinely, you know, difficulties sitting in, you know, a classroom. I can't ever see myself doing it. You know, and I've not got the rank to do like a welfare role or anything. So just understanding my situation. There's not much I can do. So why are you sending me back? And anyway, that's
So you done was that?
yeah. No, went back. You know, I hate it. In all honesty, you know, I feel like I want to say to you, it's all right, but I hated every minute of it. I just turned up. You know, I still wasn't.
What did they expect? What did they say to you?
I don't know. You know, and that was the thing. I almost felt bad for, you know, like the troopy, for example, who's like, "Oh, we're doing a mile and a half tomorrow." You know, and I just got my running legs, but I can't tell you how hard it was. You know, a mile and a half is like, if I'd done half a mile, that would have been bloody impressive. Do you know what I mean? So, but then that pressure, you know, to say, I didn't know how to say, "Are you having a laugh?" Or, "No, mate." You're like, if I do 500 meters, I'd be well happy. And you know, and I went back to the station. I didn't break. You know, that was the truth. I woke up in the morning and I was like, well, I know they're doing the mile and a half. I can't do that, so I won't go. And the funny thing was, like, I think they accepted that, or they went, okay. Like, nobody came knocking on the door being like, where are you?
Yeah, I can't imagine they know how to deal with it.
Yeah, 100%.
Because like you say, people are tiptoe around you as well, because everyone's like, people don't know how to deal with it.
Yeah, no, I agree. Not one person any awful, not one person was ever malicious or, you know, like, I had so much support. I could feel the support, but it was also like a lack of like awareness of my situation. You know, it was always, come on, Steve, like, you can do it. And it's like, yeah, I'm sure there was a bit of that. I'm sure I could have pushed myself slightly harder, but also, like, you know, I was mentally not in a good place.
Yeah.
Physically not in a good place. And I started putting weight on, like, rapid, because I was drinking. Like I say, because I was so socially isolated, I wasn't going to the gym. I was like, locked myself away in the room and, you know, like, started to feel a bit embarrassed and, you know, like, eating fast food because that was the easy option, you know. Just a million miles away from where I wanted to be.
Is there any point when you thought, screw this, or?
I think I don't ever remember feeling like at the point where, right, that's it, you know, I want out. But, you know, I definitely felt, you know, a lot of the traits of that in terms of, like, you know, I felt like just a burden, you know, like I felt like, oh man, you've gone from being this incredibly independent person who gets on, it doesn't always get it right. He's a bit of a joker, a bit of a, you know, but easygoing, gets on with it. To like, you know, like say, like, everything seems to be a drama, like, can't do that or can't do this, and, you know, I remember we went on a dense day and, you know, I just remember feeling incredibly anxious, and I didn't want to, you know, I didn't want to, I thought embrace it, you know, but, you know, the dense bit's like big, you know, we're on Salisbury Plain, and lads are running up and down, and I'm bimbling down, taking me like half an hour to get down there. It's red hot, you know, like sweating, I'm like, it's just uncomfortable all day, you know, and somehow get through that. It was like a final, the squadron that got to the finals, we went to Chatham to watch him or something, and, you know, some hat-sided majors like, you pissed? So I got, you know, trousers on, and then, you know, my gate and my up, it's where I'm walking. It was like, but again, I was like, no. So, you know, like, I just walked off, and every bit of me now wishes I was as confident as I know. So I'm like, fuck are you talking to? I don't care what your rank is, but, you know, but that again, it was just lack of awareness. I know now that he would never, you know, if he'd seen prosthetics, he'd have gone, oh, shit. You know, I feel terrible or whatever. And maybe a big reason why I wear shorts now all the time, because people tend to get out of my way or understand, you know, like, when I do wear trousers, people might assume I'm drunk or what's going on with him or get in my way a little bit. Whereas now I tend to get that 2 meter circle around me, which I need, you know, in all honesty.
Yeah, that's, yeah. So that, when did you, how long were you before you what did you do then? How did you say, how did you sign off?
No, so I remember going down to the med center. I think I admitted it. I think it's Haggis, you know, actually, I don't think he knows that he saw it in the way Haggis can, and because I had so much respect for him. I was going on like a cycling tour or something, and he was helping me with this hand bike, and I was quite excited, and even that was all going wrong. You know when you're down anyway, and everything just seems to magnify the small things get you right. And I kept getting punches in this bloody bike, and, you know, like, trying to go around the airfield and stuff, but I'd come back and it'd be another puncher, and I'm like, oh, so I had this incredibly like shit experience on this bike ride to the charity that I tried to do. I'm like, I can't even do that. Do you know what I mean? And I remember having a bit of a heart but I guess like, man, like, fucking fat, and he said to me, his head, like, you need to screw it out a bit. Like, if you're feeling like that, you can't be getting shit faced and expecting to feel any better. You can't be, you know. And coming from him, it stung. I'm not gonna lie, but like, it's what I needed. It wasn't tiptoeing around me. He wasn't letting me behave in a way that he knew wasn't kind of how I wanted to be. Feeling sorry for myself, and I wasn't. I don't think I was ever at the point where I'd sit in the room and genuinely feel sorry for myself. But I was beginning to get a bit like that. Oh, this is going wrong and that, and he called me out on it, which is incredibly. That's the kind of friend I want. You know what I mean? When I reflect now, I'm like, that must have been hard to do. Well, fair play to him. And I went down to the med center and I was like, things aren't good. I'm drinking, I'm fat, I'm still taking I've literally had like a carrying bag of pregabalin, morphine, like you name it, I had it. No wonder I feel like shit. I'm clammy, my heart rate's up, and I can't sleep. So I wanted out. I like in terms of like going out of there, and it wasn't. They were like, well, we'll try and get some counselling. And I was like, that's not what I'm looking for. I need to go home, or I need to go to an environment I can patch myself back up. Like get off the booze and just. I need almost like a 12-week sobriety program or something just to pull myself together. So anyway, I can't even remember how the conversation went, honestly, but I remember driving back up the line that evening and just being like, fuck yeah, like I really have tried my best, and it's just I can see where this is leading. Like it felt like the outcome if I stay was going to be incredibly negative for everyone. Not just for me, but like the lads are seeing me, belly diving there, and like haggis and noise, was like I said, strong, but also like helped me make a plan on what I was going to do. And I went home. I remember my stepdad. He was a copper, and I did not spend much time with him. In all honesty, got with my mum when I just joined up, and like sorry, we talked, but didn't really see eye to eye. And he was never going to match up to my own man. He's a legend. He's a good man and be great with my mum. Love him to bits now, but at that time, it was still a bit like awkward, young man and stepdad. And anyway, fair play to him, because he'd been in the police and he got to approach people. And I remember he rang, whoever welfare he was at the squadron, and said, look, it's arrived, what do we do with it? Like, look, you have to go to his GP or whatever, or send him back down, or technically he's AWOL or whatever. So went to the GP, and the GP again, what the fuck do we do with this lad who's just rocked up with 2 prosthetic legs, and he was just like, I'm going to sign you off for 2 weeks, or you can but I'll do it for you on this occasion, and then at least you can send it to the military. And honestly, I never went back. That was it. I knew, I remember doing my medical discharge about 6 months later or something, drove down to Salisbury, Tidworth. So I had a build on me Tidworth, and signed for 2 doctors with my stepdad, in all fairness, and it's right, we're going to medical discharge it. So
they kind of just left you alone, and then through the GP, then they got arranged the medical discharge.
Yeah, and I think I what I didn't realise is it probably made it really awkward, for the squadron and for everyone, because actually once I got signed off, and I think I'd gone back and got like a long-term signal after that, kind of you'll go back when you're ready sort of thing. So I'd opened up how bad things were, mentioned I was suicidal to the GP. Like fair play, got me the right support. Yeah, and and I knew then as well, though, that was the answer I was looking for. Not that I knew better than anyone, but I'm like, that's not. I've tried it now, and it's as I suspected. And nobody wanted this to succeed more than me. Trust me, I would have loved to have gone in, smashed that 1.5 miles, and been like, still got it. You know what I mean? I would have loved that, but that wasn't the situation I was in. I was overweight. I was a million miles away from. And there were comments beginning to be made, by people, and that ate me a bit. And I was like, I know you're having fun, but I'm bikini low here. You know what I mean? I'm taking this personally now. So yeah, and then that was just the start of, I had a fair amount of difficulty, because I didn't just go home and stop drinking to do everything I wanted to do. I tried to crack on. Yeah, probably took me, I would say, about 18 months for the penny to drop. That actually, I need to get off the bed. So I need to get back in the gym. I need to just get back to feeling some sense of self-esteem.
It kind of like you're not sort of same way then for 18 months. What changed? What was the real catalyst then?
Yeah,
Okay, obviously Haggis was one.
yeah,
part of it.
yeah.
What was
But
the
I think that
next?
as well. Like, I got with my now wife, like, and we'd had a bit of a relationship before I joined up. But she was also someone I really trusted. Like she knew all my faults, but all my qualities. And again, like Haggis, she wasn't willing to accept that I was happy or cool with the the situation. And he was probably I'd say it was like 18 months from point of injury to me stopping drinking or at least screwing the nut to the point where, I felt better with myself. Oh yeah, and she called me out, just being honest with myself, like drinking people. No, I'm just going to go for a few, and then 2 days later appear like, like I've been on a mad weekend or spent too much or, like, yeah. So yeah, just call me out and that hurt, because I realised I was being dishonest, and that was the penny drop for me. I was like, I'm not even being honest with myself. It was a bit like that Spider-Man image where the three of them point at each other. It was a bit like, you don't know who you are. You're lying to yourself. You're lying to your missus. You're lying to almost people say, oh, you're going to go back in, and I would say, oh yeah, I'd love to go back in, where I knew there's no chance of it. But and I'd what to do in my future, but it felt like I was saying things people wanted to hear.
Is there any that I can imagine when you're going out drinking as well? It's almost like that. Like when a pop star is just surrounded by fans and there's no like, you know what I mean? Everyone's like, oh, yeah, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I think so. And pat you on the back, buy your pie.
Yeah. But there's no real,
not an excuse, but it was at one point, get a few beers thrown in front of you, and I knew once I'd had 3 or 4 beers, it's always been on like, that was me for the evening,
So that's where you true like Haggis and the true friendships, aren't they? Where they're not gonna
call me out. I remember, Haggis did it again. When. Don't get me wrong, I was getting out all the time, and I was getting to the gym, and I was getting good on my prosthetics. I probably just started working, and Mel got pregnant, probably a bit earlier than we expected, and I got a nice message off Haggis like, so proud, and you're going to be a dad, and now's the time to really screw the nut. And again, it was just that little reassurance, and when I've needed, he probably tweaked that, like having a positive male role model in my life was fairly important. And if he could provide that little bit, and don't get me wrong, Haggis, it's not every 2 minutes, it's just like out of the blue to get that message. And again, a little bit of me was like, oh man, doubt me a little bit there. But then I got, no, actually, this is a really good person. Who's just reminding me that, you have a tendency to, especially, not that I knew at the time, but, pregnancy, the challenges that can come with that, the misses, the hormones, the fear of becoming a father with a disability. And I didn't know at the time. I was just dead excited to, I've got a son on the way. Like, this is cool. And this, but yeah, there's some big question marks. I think we all feel that, don't we, with children?
Yeah, that's, you don't know if you're ready either, do you? You can think you're ready. Yeah. You don't know, you don't even.
Yeah, and I didn't have a job, like I was still in that, in between a bit. But, and yeah, I sometimes look at my mates who had children, and, maybe they've gone into a trade or something, and, they were 10 years under the belt now. So they were doing well, and, the house and this and that. And I was like, almost felt like I was starting again. And but I accepted the challenge, and I'm glad I did. And, one thing my missus said to me was like, look, you're going to have to get a job. But just get a job that you enjoy. Forget the money for a second, like, just get a job you enjoy. And I got a little band 2 job in the NHS as a rehabilitation gym assistant. Honestly, I think it was my saving grace, because I had that purpose, back, had my son on the way, I'm driving to work, doing a 9 to 5 and coming home. Yeah. I'm like,
structure and purpose.
There's some structure, some normality, and it was a terrible job in a lot of ways, but it was also an awesome job. So I was working in the gym, so I did my PT quals. So I'd bunk off at lunchtime, get in the gym, incredibly positive, eat well, so I was in that environment, stopped smoking. Very rarely would I have a drink. And then, about a year after that, I remember we got married, and I got shit-faced that night, in a good way, and we had a good laugh and that. And I remember woke up the next morning, like, I'm going to stop drinking. Like, I've not enjoyed this feeling, just a hangover, and that's it. I've never not drunk since,
How many years has that been now?
Oh man, that's a good question. I was like 12 years, something like that, 11 years.
I think
for somebody who was, bang at it.
That's the thing though, mate. Like you saying you drink before you join the army, that culture of the army, there's a lot of good times, but there's a lot of negative nights out. But it's the things after the night out as well. There's a lot what comes with it. So when you experience just how good you feel sort of through the week, and then you go out again, don't you? Like when you have the wedding, you realise like I've had that now. I don't need it anymore.
Yeah. No. And I think the thing that I acknowledged, and I could be wrong, but it's just how I felt, was it's like I would drink and then it would take me like so many days just to feel some sort of sense of like, normality or happiness, and it felt like every time I drank it was like another couple of hours or another couple of days, and it's getting longer and longer. So, and I think, again, I've geeked out on that a little bit, and reading about addiction and the way the body responds, and there is a bit of science to that, that actually your baseline is getting lower and lower, and you need more and more to feel that dopamine feeling, and that's almost how it felt with me. I was like, each time I feel like I'm having to reset. It's taking longer and longer to get back to some sort of normality. But then when I am drinking, I feel like that's like becoming more and more as well. So it's like a double-edged sword where I'm drinking more, which is affecting me more. It's taking me longer to recover.
Yeah. And the way we used to drink as well, you get to Thursday, don't you? And you're just about recovering and you're back out. So you just don't even know, I think, what normal feels like. If you have a good stretching and how good you feel.
But
it's crazy, isn't it? So that was the last time we wedding night. It's a good it's a good night to end it, isn't it, as well?
Yeah. No, it was, and like I think it helped me like get stuck into my job as well. My missus laughs now because like when Harry, my eldest son, was born, it's like we had like little cause I was always sober, right? I was always like fresh Saturday morning, so we go on little like cafe days and stuff, and like he was such a chiller as a child, and he was really part of my recovery. He honestly was, just in terms of like we would do, just try and teach him how to play golf, footy. I'd go in the nets, just so I was always on my prosthetics with him, chasing around after it, and it was like my little rehabilitation tool. So he'd have the great times. He's with his old man, and and just having fun, and I'd always get a snack out of it because I'd need to sit down or I'd go and get a brew or whatever. And with respect, and I wasn't working like full time. I was slowly getting into it, and so I had so much time. Whereas my youngest one, bless him, by the point he came along, and I'm back in work full time. Life's busy. I'm trying to get to the gym. I'm like, I don't get me wrong. I love spending every minute with both, but it's funny in their personalities. Harry's so relaxed, and Jack, my little one, he's like me as a kid. He's so hyperactive. So I'm like, he's a squadron. He's going to have to go down. I think at some point he's got that eye. But it's just funny, isn't it? I think it's a weird thing now. And for my two Penrith, I think a lot of people wait until they have children or the perfect job or the this or that. And I'm like, actually, I think there's something in the things I respect about my father so much is the challenges he overcame. Well, not that I saw that, but they're the things I look back on him now and I go, oh, fair play, mate. And I think it's the same, for my children, they've almost watched me grow alongside and go, fair play, mate. I hope one day, not now, they'll probably think, really not bad, like with his music, I'm picking me up from high school, but you know what I mean? It's like, at some point, I hope that they think, fair play, you could have gone the other way, or you could have. And I think there is a bit of that now, isn't there? Everyone trying to be perfect all the time. Actually, kids need to see you struggle.
Yeah, well, and this is the thing about talking about, mate, seeing your struggles, because no one has it perfect, and it's crippling trying to be perfect as well, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? Like, it can't be done. It's not achievable as a human. So, but we don't tend to talk about them, do we? You know what I mean? You only sort of give off your achievements and your good things, you know what I mean? And I honestly don't think we're taught as blokes either. Because you're saying you're at the squadron and you're drinking, but also all them other lads come back from the tour, they're out on the ale. The lads who helped sort of patch you up, are they talking to another? There's guys with all these, and it doesn't have to be like catastrophic. It can be, it can be a random near miss, can't it? You know what I mean? Which no one's seen, but you were like, jeez, you know what I mean?
Yeah. It can be a guilt. it could be a guilt.
Yeah.
It's also it's such a complex, mix, isn't it? When you reflect back at the time, you just think, oh, just young wild lads, and you actually look and you go like, oh, there's a lot going on.
Well, it just listen to how your situation was, and then you kind of just, you were allowed to get off essentially, weren't you? But it just makes me think, like, everyone around probably had their own thing going on, and no one was talking, no one knew what to do, how to deal with anything.
No, and I'm sure people did try, and probably went over my head a little bit, or or didn't know how to broach something, or but yeah, and I suppose that's coming back to the haggis conversation. It's got to be that person, hasn't it, who gets you, or you feel that respect for. So yeah,
and
it's so important to have those people in these environments where almost like that. A person of the overarching respect, or somebody who's been there and done it, because you've got a lot of young lads with a lot of egos, and sometimes you need.
And Haggis has been through it, hasn't he? Obviously, he's been there for Ross as well.
I'm sure he's been told on a couple of occasions, I dare say, so.
Well, he was an old sweat when I was in, so like a few years after, and it's nice to hear that he gave you that advice as well. So when did all this sort of the Paralympic sort of stuff come about?
So I've had this epiphany moment that like being physically active, getting back in the gym, eating well, guess what? My sleep started improving. My anxiety went down, my self-esteem goes up. I'm not saying I felt $1 million, but life's all right. You know what I mean? I've got a job. It's a bantu. I can't even remember what the wage. 17 grand a year or something daft. But it's cool. It's like whatever. I was driving to Preston every day as well, I'm back, so I probably was breaking even at best, but it was cool, it got me going. And then, the Invictus Games was on, and I felt like a bit of a fraud, by 2012, I was probably just about, like getting to a level of fitness where I could have done something like that. And I've seen all these new lads who were injured a couple of years, 18 months after me, running around and doing all these crazy stuff in London. And I'm like, I'm about, like, what's going on here? I should be doing that, and I felt like I probably, I don't know, like my confidence, or not sure why I didn't sign up, but I was like, fair play, lads, and again, just positive, peers, and I was like, that's incredible that, you at that stage, I was really struggling, or, coming to terms, or whatever it was that I was struggling with. When you lads are running all that crazy cats, like, that's incredible. Like, I want to be part of that. So I signed up to the Invictus Games. And I think 2 years after that, it was in Sydney, which also helped me with motivating me. I was like,
that's 2004.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. I was like, I'll get to Sydney, and I was looking at.
You can't go back to the beginning, but you can start where you are and change the ending.